Hello and welcome everyone. Kerry here from Homesteadhow and the Carnivore Diet Movie, and I am here with old guy carnivore Mitch. Welcome to the show, Mitch. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Kerry. How you doing? How can
I'm
you
doing
be doing anything other than great when you feel this way, huh?
Yes. Yeah, I feel better and better every day. And I was telling Mitch, if I'm sweaty and I look a little out of sorts, I was wearing a dog suit for the last hour and a half, and then I ran down the stairs. For those who are watching that don't know, my wife and I own our small town movie theater. We're playing Paw Patrol, so I was dressed up in a Paw Patrol costume outside, getting pictures and waving with the kids. So my life has become very weird, but I've been looking forward to talking to you, Mitch. I've watched a couple of your videos and really love what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I've got a link to Mitch's channel in the description below for anyone watching that hasn't watched his stuff yet. Go check it out. I really enjoyed it. Would you mind, Mitch, maybe telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and maybe how you found carnivore?
Okay. You stop me if I just keep going too long. I have a tendency to,
Me too. we're
once
gonna
I
be
get started.
we're gonna be trouble, Mitch. We're gonna be trouble. Leave us a comment if Mitch and I are talking too long.
When I do my live streams, I have an old drone buddy of mine that was on with me all the time on my drone live streams, and his job is to rein me in when I start getting off on these tangents. So, but see, I got an excuse, Kerry. I'm 76 years old.
Right.
So that's a great excuse. Cop
Right.
pulls you over, you say, I'm 76 years old, officer, and they say, okay, old man, you go right ahead.
Right.
At any rate, I was born in Philadelphia a long time ago. And as far as my diet history goes, I was a fat kid. A fat teenager. I started dieting 50, 60 years ago. Before I even went in the army, I was already dieting. And of course, we didn't know what to do back then. What did you do? You starved to death. You restricted your calories. You lost a little weight. And then you rewarded yourself and you put all the weight back on. So that didn't work. And I went in the army. And of course, in the army, you lose a little weight because, you work out, you work a lot. But as soon as I got out of the army, I put the weight back on again. So I got out of the army in 1970. 1972, Robert Atkins wrote his book, The Atkins Diet Revolution. And that was the beginning of low carb. And I read the book and it made just a lot of sense to me. Made a lot of sense. In fact, it kindled an interest in biochemistry. And I've been studying that all my life because of reading Atkins' first book. But I went on that diet and it worked. And everybody thought I was out of my mind. Everybody thought that this guy has lost it. He's going to be heart attack city by the time he gets to be 30. Well, I didn't realize it way back then, but it finally dawned on me when people started talking about carb addiction that I was a carb addict. Not so much sweets as bread. I mean, I was brought up in Philadelphia. We had a bakery on every corner. We had fresh rye bread, fresh bagels. I just love that stuff. And ice cream. And I would put on weight faster than anybody could. I went on the Atkins diet. I lost weight. I would be at 200, 210 pounds at the top of my range, about 150 to 60 down at the bottom. So I was bouncing around in a 50-pound range. And over the next 40 years, I went from diet to diet. And I would say, Kerry, at least 15, if not even 20 times, I made that journey up to 50 pounds and down to 50 pounds. And that is the true meaning of a roller coaster. Can't be good for you. Can't be good for your body to keep changing like that. But I went from the Atkins diet, and then there was the Mediterranean diet, and the Scarsdale diet, and the Zone diet, and all the diets in between. And every time I read one of these new books, they were basically low carb, pretty much the same. Not ketogenic, not really low enough carbs to be ketogenic. And not for me anyway, because my threshold seems to be around 5 to 10 grams a day. Anything more than that, I'm done. I think Ken Berry talks about himself. He says the same thing, that he just can't. He just, he's got to be as close to zero carbs. Well, I'm one of those. I thought I was being healthy when I was eating the fruit and the nuts and the almonds and all of the what they used to call superfoods that are loaded with oxalates. I ended up with ridiculous kidney stones from all that, hospitalized twice. And I kept going. And then I discovered, 5 years ago, the keto thing started. And I said, that sounds like a winner for me. So I went on keto, but I didn't lower my carbs enough. So I would eat blueberries and I would eat a little handful of nuts. And the problem, being a carb addict like I was, I'd go to Sam's. I mean, I'd go to Aldi, and I'd buy a 3-pound bag of frozen blueberries. And I have one of these little magic ninja blender things. And I would fill it with blueberries, and then I'd pour some heavy whipping cream in it. And I'd make myself some blueberry ice cream. And I said, well, I'm just going to have just one of these little cups of this, Come on, Mitch, you got some willpower. One little cup. And I'd make the one little cup. And an hour later, the entire 3-pound bag of blueberries was gone. And I just couldn't do it. I get triggered so easily. So I can't do it. And I went up until 2 years ago. I was doing okay on keto. I was hovering around 160 pounds, 165 pounds. I started to go back to the gym because previous to going on keto, I had rheumatoid arthritis in almost every joint in my body. And it flared up, and then it got a little better, and then it would flare up again, and I couldn't even tie my shoes. And at the VA, they actually had me going to physical therapy. They had me in front of 4 different rheumatologists at the same time at the big VA hospital here in Orlando. I mean, not one rheumatologist, but 4 came in. They couldn't figure out what it was, but it was terrible. I had high blood pressure. I had the kidney stones, eczema all over my elbows here that bothered me. It was terrible. And the keto diet started to improve that a little bit. And after about a couple of years on keto, I got to the point where I thought I could get back to the gym. So I go to the gym. We're not going on too long for you, are we?
No.
Okay. I get back to the gym. And you don't know me that well, but I'm not one of these yes, you and I have a lot in common. We're not one of these halfway guys.
Right.
I mean, obviously, you jump in, the next thing you know, you're Cecil B. DeMille. You're going to make a movie. Okay, well, I'm that kind of guy. I don't do anything halfway. I became a knife collector. Next thing I knew, I was hosting huge knife shows in Orlando. I became I started playing with drones. I've always been a model airplane pilot. Next thing I got to be a YouTube drone guy doing live streams and things. So I went back to the gym. I overdid it. Okay. You ever lay off for a couple of years, go back? I overdid it because that's just the way I am. You think I'm going to ramp up? Hell no. I'm going to, And then to make matters worse, I go into the 170-degree sauna. Okay. And I'm in there, and somehow the conversation with one of the other guys in the sauna came around to keto. So we're talking keto. Next thing I know, I've been in that sauna for 45 minutes, which is way too long. Sweated out a lot. I stood up. I got lightheaded, got dizzy. You can get that from just working out too hard. I went back to my locker. I laid down on the bench next to the locker, and I figured, well, I've done this before in my life where I felt lightheaded. I drank some water and I laid down, and I thought, let me just lay here for a few minutes. I wake up, I'm in the emergency room of the hospital next door. Okay. I evidently, I don't remember it, tried to get up at one point, passed out, hit the back of my head right here on the corner of the bench in front of the locker, and knocked myself unconscious completely.
Wow.
Fortunately, this gym is part of a big medical complex, so they take me to the hospital next door. My locker was open, so they found my wallet. They knew who I was. They got a hold of my son. I wake up, my son is sitting there in the emergency room with me. They tell me, I said, what happened? I was out for an hour. They said, you hit your head and you've got a brain bleed. You know what that is? You ever heard of that? When you hit your head back here and then up on the other side, it whiplashes and you get. So they said, we're going to keep you overnight. We're going to take a look at it. And you may have to go down to the neurology wing at one of their bigger hospitals. Possibility of having to have it, if I get a blood clot or something, they have to go in there. So the next morning, they actually let me go. They sent me home. Over the course of the next 5 or 6 weeks, I started getting weird symptoms, almost stroke-like symptoms. I was losing my balance. I got numbness in my right hand and my right foot. I had bouts of aphasia. Aphasia is when you can't put words together, like somebody who has a stroke. Mm-hmm. And they lasted 2 or 3 minutes and then they went away. And I didn't know what it was. I was starting to get concerned. And I was in a store talking to the clerk behind the counter, and I couldn't talk. I just couldn't put words together. Scared the shit out of me. I went and went back out to my car. I was fine. I mean, I felt okay. My speech came back. I called my son on the phone. I said, there's something wrong. And while I was talking to him on the phone, this aphasia stuff started again, scared the crap out of him. He came and got me, took me down to a local hospital here where he happens to be on the board of directors, which means I get great service when I go into that emergency room. And I went to the emergency room. They took a CT scan of my head. Next thing I know, I'm in a helicopter. And they're flying me 3 miles away down to this big hospital, land on the roof, wheel me down to intensive care. It's too late to make a long story short, but the next day I had a craniotomy and they removed a huge subdural hematoma from my head. And I have it's on this side. When I look in on the screen, it's backwards. So I always grab the wrong side, but it's right there. Can you see it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They cut the whole side of my skull out. They took this blood clot out of there that was supposedly 2 centimeters thick, and it of course was pressing and compressing my brain. I recovered pretty quickly from that, but not in all aspects. It took almost a year for my vertigo to go away, my balance to completely return. That's when I stopped making drone videos because I couldn't fly drones. I got too dizzy, and I recovered pretty fully from that. So after a year of that, I had been watching all these carnivore videos while, over all that time. And I said, all right, that's time now. This is the only thing that really I think is going to work for me. And I 14 months ago, I don't count the days like you guys do, but 14 months ago, which is over 400 days, I think, I started. And since that time, I have not deviated 1 leaf of lettuce. 0. I didn't even have a hard time getting into it because I was primarily doing keto and low carb most of my life. So I was used to that way of eating. I'm not a vegetable guy, never have been. I don't miss them. And I love it. After a month or two, I started noticing all the stuff that I had wrong with me going away. My blood pressure normalized, all that stuff. I started having 0 joint pain. it was, you know, I don't have to tell you what it's like. It's like the fountain of youth. You just start feeling terrific. And after 6 months on carnivore, I was 140 pounds. I hadn't even gone back to the gym yet. Okay. 140 pounds, energy like you couldn't believe. I felt like a 30-year-old. I was eating intermittent fasting 2 meals a day because I didn't get enough food trying to do OMAD. And I tried that, but I couldn't get enough food. So I've settled into about a 4-hour eating window every day, and I've been steady that way. I eat my first meal of the day around noon, maybe 3, 4 o'clock. I eat something else, and that way I get enough food, because on OMAD I just wasn't getting enough food. I knew that, and yet I couldn't. You can only eat so much meat at one sitting. Some guys can. So on and on it went, and I kept getting better and better. 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I said, okay, it's time to go back to the gym. I felt good. I felt like I needed to. I said, let me see what I can do. I got down on the floor. I could do 2 push-ups. 2. And the second one was a struggle. So I said, yeah, Mitch, you need to get back to the gym. Went back to the gym, started working out, taking Bart K's advice. You know Bart K, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Taking Bart K's advice of high intensity, and intermittent interval training, HIIT, high intensity interval training, with as heavy a weight as I could push to failure in 6 to 8 reps. And in those 6 months, I started putting on muscle like I had never have in my entire life. I couldn't believe it. Nobody can believe it. That's why I put that picture up with me with my shirt off. I mean, I was the kid that wouldn't take a shirt off in public. I was always ashamed of the way I looked all my life. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to put on some muscle, and especially at my age, because everybody knows that once you get to in your 70s, you can't put on muscle, right? It's just another one of those things that everybody seems to know but me. So, oh God, I see a question. Jennifer, she's one of my girls from.
Yeah, she's great.
Does Mitch? I'm sure we share a ton of subscribers together. Yeah. I've gotten a lot of comments today saying that people can't wait till tonight because they subscribe to both of us. But Jennifer says, does Mitch tell people at the gym about carnivore? Well, Mitch did. You know the rest of this story, don't you?
No.
The rest of this story is people aren't interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't want you to walk up and try to help them. So I got to the point where I was trying to help these people. I mean, I knew what their problem was. I could see it. You could tell by looking at somebody how metabolically sick they are. And so nobody wants my advice. Nobody. I mean, I actually had one guy go almost violently. He has Crohn's disease. Okay. And one day in the locker room, he almost ran me over trying to get to the bathroom. And he came back and he said, sorry, I got Crohn's disease. I said, have you ever, I said, I made the mistake of saying to this guy, I think maybe there's something that might help you. You might want to look into it. Because how many people with Crohn's and ulcerative colitis do you hear about in the carnivore community? Yeah. It's an autoimmune disease. Mm-hmm. It's a reaction to something. It's not a bacteria or a germ or anything. It's a reaction to something you put in your body. And when you stop putting that in your body, it gets better. So he just opened up on me. He started telling me, how dare I've got the best doctors in the world. My doctors at Johns Hopkins University told me there's no cure for this. They've already cut out 1/3 of my colon. This guy's 50 years old. And he's in shape too. How dare you? That's like telling a person in a wheelchair that they might be able to walk again. You should be. And he just laid into me. And I said, hey, no problem. Enjoy your Crohn's. And we talk now. I think he's started to investigate carnivore a little. But that was the last time I ever mentioned diet to anybody at the gym. They're not interested. I've tried to help a bunch of my friends,
Right.
and they all say, "Oh, that's great. I mean, look at you. I'm going to do that. I'm going to." I said, "Yeah, I've heard that story 50 times already. I'm going to do that." Oh no, not me. When I put my mind to something, it gets done. Well, 4 days later, he's at the pool with beer and Doritos again.
Right.
I mean, and I finally said to myself, why am I putting so much of my energy and enthusiasm into trying to help these people when none of them are going to take it seriously? They're all married. They all have family. They have their families are eating all kinds of garbage. They're not going to be able to do this. I live alone. You know what a plus that is when you try to be a carnivore, when nobody's in the house with you and you dictate what food comes into the house.
Right.
So that's when I said, I just want to tell people about this.
Yeah.
I want to, I'm not a real religious guy, but when people say to me, I found Jesus, and they start telling me all about it, I never understood what that feeling was like. Well, that's what this is like.
Yeah.
You see these people and you know what's hurting them, what's making them sick, what's making them suffer, what's shortening their lives, and why. And that's the most important part, Kerry, is to know the why behind it. And one of the things, so I said, I got this old drone YouTube channel. I haven't done anything on it in 2 years. I'm going to change the name from Old Guy in a Drone to Old Guy Carnivore. And it took off. It just took off. And my hook, the reason I thought I might be able to contribute something different than what everybody else is contributing. The usual carnivore influencer that comes in is the guy that lost 200 pounds, is the Bill Knott kind of guy. The kind of guy that has a before picture this big and an after picture this. Well, I was never that obese. So I didn't have that going for me. But as I looked around, I noticed that there were very few, if any, other than some of the doctors, the older doctors and researchers. There was nobody over 60, 65 years old. And I know personally that there are tens and tens of thousands of people over 60 out there that need something like this. And I said, I think if I went on there and I started telling my story and trying to help them understand what I've learned over a lifetime of doing this, maybe I could help somebody. And I had no idea what format to make my videos. I'm still experimenting with different things. I've got, I talk to people while I cook in the kitchen. I sit behind this studio mic and talk biochemistry and things like that. And that nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear that. I go on rants. They like the rants.
Yeah.
And I'm good at rants. But it is growing. And in less than 2 months, I picked up like 13,000 subscribers. I'm still, compared to other channels and things, I'm still a little guy, but it's gratifying because in the drone thing, I got 1,300. That was as high as I ever went. And that's a small community. So there's the story. I told you it was going to take a minute.
It was, hey, I was hanging on every word. That was wonderful. This is crazy, Mitch, because I feel like I'm in the twilight zone a little bit right now. Everything that you're saying, and I don't want to say it like that because you've been through your own experiences, but it's so crazy how many of the issues that you went through that are similar to mine. The roller coaster diet, up and down, trying keto, losing a bunch of weight, gaining it all back, not being able to eat in moderation. I had 2 kidney stones. That was the worst pain of my entire life. I remember when I went to the hospital, the nurse was a woman, and she said she had a baby and a kidney stone, and she'd rather have the baby again. It was less painful than the kidney stones. And then the arthritis I had in my foot. And then, so I wanted to follow up on one of the things. So the numbness, aphasia, vertigo you had, was that all from you hitting your head, or did you end up having, it sounded like a stroke the way you were describing it, but was
Well,
all
it
that
was
from your head?
stroke. It was stroke-like symptoms, but it wasn't a stroke.
Okay.
I mean, I had every test, but on the MRI, they can tell by the MRI whether you've had a stroke or not. It was all caused by this huge blood clot compressing my brain, and that caused the symptoms. But they were short little 2, 3, 4 minute kind of attacks. They likened them to a mini seizure of kinds, but there was no permanent damage. I always wondered if I might not be brain damaged, because I am just that different than most people. But
right. Well, the reason I was asking that too is, it's funny. I was just doing an interview with someone, and they were asking me about my medical history, and I found this thing. And I've talked about so much on my YouTube channel, but in 2015, I had everything that you just described.
really,
When you said aphasia, I'm like, I know what that is. I had numbness, vertigo, aphasia. I couldn't find my words. I was confused. I was sitting on the couch at home. I was dizzy, and then my lips started drooping, and my wife called the 911. I had to go to the hospital. I ended up I didn't take a helicopter ride like you, but I ended up going to the bigger hospital, to the stroke unit. They gave me this big stroke binder, and they
holy cow!
concluded I had a mini stroke. But it was very similar to everything that you just said. Yeah, that was one of my many issues. And then ever since then too, I don't know if it's related to that or not, but it seemed like a temporary thing, which mini strokes usually are. They won't see them afterwards on the MRI unless you have a permanent stroke. But it's just so interesting hearing you speak, Mitch, because it's like all this stuff you're saying, I'm like, wow, he sounds like me. It sounds like, and then you're doing YouTube on the drone stuff. I used to do YouTube homesteading, a little bit of drone stuff.
Well, I know that's how you got started. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then all the other things, like, man, the keto too. We are the same in the moderation thing.
Brothers
sure.
from another mother, man.
Yes. The keto stuff. I used to do the same thing with the blueberries, or I would do keto and I would lose a whole bunch of weight. And then I'd be like, oh, I could just a little bit of moderation. The blueberries, those are good. Not a lot of sugar. I'll just have a couple. And I'd eat the whole 3-pound bag, just like you. And then I'd be like, oh, I'll start again Monday or whatever. Or then I'd get the almonds and the nuts and stuff like that. Those aren't that bad for you. Well, then I'd eat the whole container of them. Like I cannot moderate. So just like you, I've only been 6 months carnivore. You've been 14 months.
Well, 6 months is enough. Six
Yeah.
months is what it takes to really get yourself used to it and fat adapted. You are definitely over the hump. From here, it's downhill. You won't even ever think about going back after this point.
I'm not. And I, just like you, I haven't touched a thing of lettuce or anything. People always ask me that. And I'm like, I'm not trying to shame anyone, because some people are like, well, I'll have coffee or I'll have cheese or I'll have this. I'm like, I will not touch anything. I don't want to. I don't have, like, maybe the first week I had some of those weird cravings, but I have no cravings for anything. I just eat the beef, salt, and water. I feel amazing. And I know if I were to just, I'll just have some spinach, and then it'll be some raspberries, and then I'll be eating birthday cake, and I'll gain all my weight back.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. That's addiction. And if you watch any of my video, I put out I put over 55 of them out already. I mean,
Wow.
my goal was to just get a lot of stuff out there, because I'm still trying to find my footing. I don't know if you've noticed it, but all this censorship stuff, my views have just keep going down and down and down. And everybody tells me it's not, I'm saying, well, maybe they're getting tired of me or something, but I see it when I look around. I don't know. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm putting all my stuff up on Rumble.
Yep.
I'm just backing it up there. Every video I put up there too. They don't have the reach to actually do anything like YouTube yet, but
right.
Things keep going like they're going. They might.
Sure.
And I did that whole Dr. Berg thing with his censorship thing. I'm not going to worry about that. But my main push is I experienced all the stuff, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know the power of addiction. So I try to get the message out to people that watch me that food addiction has to be treated like alcohol addiction.
Yes.
You have to, number one, you have to admit I'm an addict. You have to accept the fact that that is a real thing, even though the sugar companies and Coca-Cola don't want you to think that sugar addiction is real. It is a powerful drug. It's a damaging drug. It's poisonous. It screws up everything it touches in the human body. Anything that gets glycated ain't going to work as good anymore. It's like alcohol. There's everything in moderation stuff.
That's I hate that word. I hate that. That's what people have been telling me on Carnivore, like around month 2 or 3. Why are you eating only meat? Just moderate. And then I think the same thing you just said. If I was addicted to cocaine for 42 years and I was able to quit it and turn my whole life around, and I feel a million times better, when I go back and do cocaine every now and then in moderation, that's just insane. Yeah, I think that word moderation is what caused me to roller coaster and yo-yo diet for so many years, and probably you too, Mitch, because you get down there. Like, I'll just do moderation now. I've cured myself, and you gain it all back because sugar is an addictive drug that we've normalized, and we're giving to kids younger and younger. And that's what gets me is this next generation of children are never going to know what it feels like to be just a natural, proper human growing up with that inflammation, which turns into chronic inflammation, which a lot of science is coming out leads to cancer and everything else we talk about, diabetes and heart disease and all those things. But
see this, I mean, maybe we are connected. This afternoon, I was sitting out on my porch. There's two things I will not give up: my cigars, and I still drink a cup or two of coffee in the morning.
Yep.
I'm 76. Rank has its privileges, as
right.
But let me read what I wrote here to you.
Sure.
It's because this is an idea for the video that I was thinking about doing for maybe tomorrow or Monday. My children's generation is screwed is the title.
Yes.
My generation grew up mostly traditional diet, yet sick at my age. Now, this is not me, but these are people my age. Since dietary recommendations of 1980, in other words, 43 years ago. So the notes I made said they at least for the first 20 or 30 years of their life ate real meat, real food, until the 80s when the food pyramid came out. I was born in 1947, so I had 30 something years before the food pyramid came out to actually eat real food. And I developed my childhood while I was in the womb. My mother was eating real food. My children at least got to live 10 or 15 years on a traditional diet because my kids were born in the early 70s. My grandchildren have been poisoned both in the womb and since. And then it says here, talk about autism, obesity, diabetes in children now. Yeah. And it's funny you said that because that to me is becoming so obvious when you look at the health of the different generations and how the younger these people are, the earlier they're getting this crap. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Their average life expectancy, they'll be lucky to make it to 65. Most people I know where I live, and I live in a retirement community, they're dying in their late 60s now, early 70s.
Yeah, and if the kids make it that long, what kind of life is it if you're constantly inflamed and you have these learning disorders and brain fog and fatigued and aches and pains? It's just, that's one of my things, not to keep going back, but the Carnivore Diet movie, that was one of the big things with it was people that are hopeless or helpless. It's like you said, the people in the gym that don't want to change, or you can't change their mind. But for me, it's like there's people out there that are hopeless that don't know this is an option. And I'm not going around saying like, oh, you got to do carnivore, you got to do this. I just want to, with my YouTube videos and the documentary, give a whole bunch of examples. And then if someone's hopeless and they come upon it, they can see like, hey, this worked really well for Mitch. I'm a similar age, and like you and I talking, Mitch, I'm like, if I would have seen your video without ever knowing Carver, I'm like, I'm doing it. That guy had every issue I had, and he's killing it right now. So putting those examples out there. But I've got my board up here for the carnivore diet documentary in each of the sections, and one of the big ones is aging. Um, I did a video with Carnivore Ron. He's in his 70s. It was one of the first videos I did from homesteading videos into carnivore, and I interviewed Carnivore Ron, and he's doing just similar to you. He's doing so well on carnivore, and he's telling me the same things you are. And he's like, Kerry, I see all these people, my peers, and they're all suffering, and they all have mobility issues and arthritis, and they're in pain. And he's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Most of that is just the food they're eating. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'll ramble on and on. But one of the things
That's okay.
that was
Give me a
really
break.
cool, yeah,
I'll drink San Pellegrino, you know.
right. After I talked to Carnivore Ron, I don't know if it was because of that or what, but I've had an incredible, well, one of my YouTube videos took off, which was wonderful, the carnivore ones, the 30-day update, but I've had an incredible number of comments. This is like brings the biggest joy to me in the world, is reading these comments from people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that have been doing carnivore and are thriving on it. There's still so many, obviously, that are clueless and don't know anything about it, but they happen to find my video because of that one or something. So when I get those comments, it's just, it's the best thing in the world, because you work your entire life and then you got to suffer and mobility issues, and you can't really live. It's I really want to get the word out to folks like that. Have you seen, Mitch, the woman, her name is Maggie, she's 82, Dr. Anthony Chaffee was visiting her ranch?
Yeah, the ranch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I follow Chaffee. I watch everything that they do, him and Baker and Ken Berry. I met Ken Berry down here in Orlando. He's the guy that got me started. I blame all this on him.
Yes. Same here.
I blame it on him. I met him at this conference, and I had put out one video, and it was the one that I walked on the beach and said, and it was titled, "I'll start the diet again on Monday." Because that was that's the addict's line, you know. Yep. I'll quit drinking again on Monday. I'm going to quit smoking again on Monday.
Then when Monday comes, it's the first of the month, or I'll do it next year.
Yeah, I'll do it next year. I promise, you know. But no, and I don't know if I assaulted. I was sitting out there. I got there early. It was in Orlando, and it was an hour drive from me. I drove over there on. I didn't go for the whole 4 days, but I drove over for Saturday, and I got there early because I wanted to beat the traffic over there, or Friday rather. And I'm sitting out in a little coffee cafe thing at the end of the hallway down, you know, where you went to the exhibition thing they had. And in comes Ken and Nisha, right? And I keep joking, I don't know whether I accosted him, assaulted him, or what, but I went up to him and we started talking, and Nisha had to go off and get ready for her talk. So there's Ken and I. You ever met the guy?
I had, yes.
He's huge, man. He's huge. He's huge. He looked like a football player. The guy, you know, and I'm 5'10", so I'm not a shrimp, but geez, this guy, and the sweetest guy, I got to tell you, just, you know, what you see is what you get. He's not putting anything on. Yep. And we got talking, and I told him what I was doing. And I asked him, I said, does the YouTube carnivore community really need another person on there? And he said to me, he said, you have to do it. He said, you must do it. He says, we can't have enough people spreading this message and all that.
Yes.
And he got me all fired up. And then he actually took out his cell phone, and he went onto my channel, and he put a comment on my video and I pinned that comment, and he's since commented on 3 or 4 more of my videos. One, you know, he wrote this book, Kicking Ass After 50.
Yeah.
And his partner, I talked to him for about an hour or two over there in Orlando. And Ken came up, and so he put a comment on one of my videos. I think the one where I was doing the push-ups. And the comment was kicking ass after 75. I met Dave Feldman. You know Dave Feldman?
No.
Oh man, Dave is the guy that he's an engineer that started all this cholesterol. He's the guy that came up with the lean mass hyperresponder category.
Right.
And he's like a citizen scientist, and he's actually got studies crowdfunded now, and they're doing studies on these people with ridiculously high cholesterol like I have, that are perfectly healthy, have no heart disease, no plaque, but my cholesterol is 400. And it's always been high. And even when statins first came out, my doctor was insisting that I take the statins, and I didn't want to. I tried them for about 3 months, but I started having side effects. I got all kinds of muscle pain. So, and even to this day, I joke with my doctor when I go in and see her. I walk in and I get my blood test results before I go see the doctor. At the VA, I can go online and get all my stuff. So I walk into my doctor's appointment with my blood tests in my hand. And I see last year, after I had started Carnivore, and I'd been on Carnivore for about 5 months when I got my last blood test, my cholesterol went up 100 points. The difference between keto and Carnivore made 100 points. Okay. I didn't care. And I've been following Dave Feldman, and it's going to turn out. And then I found there are studies, and I have copies of these studies that show that in people over 60, the ones with the highest LDL, the highest cholesterol, have the longest lifespans.
Yes.
And there's one important caveat that you really have to remember when you're talking to anybody about these numbers. That doesn't mean in all people. That only works in metabolically healthy people,
Right.
where you're not glycating and oxidizing all your LDL into small, dense LDL. If you are metabolically healthy and you're burning fat the way you should, then that applies. And that's what Feldman is proving. And he's also launching other studies. And I talked to this guy, I guess a grand total of an hour and a half to 2 hours, about the biochemistry side of this. Scared me that I understood what he was saying. But I did, because I've studied enough of it. And my takeaway from that, this is my takeaway. And this is, the people that watch my videos hear this over and over again, and maybe they don't know why I keep harping on it. There's two things, and you know this because you've lived this all your life. There's two things that are going to ruin your efforts to get your health back and lose weight. And getting your health back is more important than losing weight. Losing weight, it became a beneficial side effect of getting healthy. In fact, you could throw your scale away when you go on a carnivore diet, and just know that if you do it right, you know, and you got back on a scale a year later, you find out you lost all the weight you wanted to lose. You can tell by your clothes. But the two things, number one is addiction. Until as a society, we recognize that food addiction is a serious chemical addiction, just like cocaine, heroin, alcohol, nicotine, and everything else, and start treating it as such, people are not going to get cured. The problem is the big food companies don't want people to get cured. They'll fight it like big tobacco fought it all those years. And when big tobacco finally lost, what did they do? They bought up all the big food companies. These are the same people. And then they sent their scientists into the big food companies to teach those people how to make the food more and more addictive, because that's the business model that they run under. They run under the addictive model. Get them addicted where they can't live without your product. The drug companies are like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a pill to take their pain away. They're a customer for life. Now they want to do it with this Ozempic stuff. And I think that's another road to disaster, but I'm not a doctor. What do I know? They keep telling me, well, you're not a doctor. What do you know? I said, well, What I didn't do was learn all the crap that you learned. That's false. I'm not a
Right.
dietitian either. Nobody ever taught me to eat healthy fruits and vegetables and tell everybody else to. So I'm kind of glad I never got all that misinformation in school and got brainwashed like the rest of the world did. At any rate, that's the first thing, addiction. Addiction is the first thing. The second thing that kills everybody on this diet, and the failure rate, Kerry, unfortunately, I think is way high. Way high. I couldn't even guess a percentage, but I can't imagine that of all the people with the good intentions that say, I'm going on a carnivore diet, that make it a year, 5%, do you think? What do you think?
It's so hard. I would hope it would be more than that, but you're probably right because it seems like a lot. Well, especially if you account for the first couple days where they're like, oh, I'm going to try this. A close friend of ours was all gung ho about starting this. And I was asking my wife what happened. No, they're done like 3 days into it. So yeah.
Even my own children, my own 2 kids cannot stick with this. And they're both have a lot to lose. Let's put it that way. And it breaks my heart to see them. I'm doing this just as much to be an example to them because my daughter is the most severe kind of sugar addict that I can ever imagine. And it breaks my heart to see it. But the second thing is, other than the addiction, is that I would say most people, when their doctor tells them they're killing themselves and they can't be eating that kind of red meat because everybody knows that red meat causes colon cancer and other things. And you can't be eating that much saturated fat because everybody knows. That phrase, everybody knows, makes me crazy. Mm-hmm. When anybody says that to me, well, Mitch, everybody knows, I go, wait a minute. I don't know.
Right.
It's like when they tell you what the American people want. The American people want, wait a minute, time out. I'm an American. I don't want that. Don't speak for me, please.
Right.
People get scared away. They get scared off by their doctors, and it's all primarily cholesterol, the magic word, the one word that the medical community is built on, the one number, the magic number that doctors make all their decisions on. And I just did a little video about old Ansel Keys and the fraud that clown perpetrated.
The destruction from that. Unbelievable.
I call him the biggest mass murderer in the history of humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to call him or Ellen G. White or Harvey Kellogg. I don't know which of the three, but they're all involved. And Harvey Kellogg and Ellen G. White come from the religious side, come from the Seventh-day Adventists.
Yeah.
And Ansel Keys comes from the flaming egotistical politician, wannabe physiologist. The guy was a fish physiologist, for God's sakes. Our dietary guidelines come from a fish physiologist. That's what his doctorate was in.
Right.
And the story, when you dig into it, it's got to make you mad. Well, it's got to make you mad.
There's so many documentaries about. The first one I ever watched, I learned about Ansel Keys, was a long time ago. It was on keto. It was called Fathead by Tom Naughton. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that was kind of what gave me the idea to do a documentary, because that's how I found keto, was through a documentary. It wasn't YouTube. But then actually last night I was watching Fat Fiction again, which I've seen twice.
They're all great. They're all great.
Fat Fiction gets way into Ansel Keys, and what a tragedy. And oh man, you're right. The biggest reason people aren't starting is just fear, and it's all unfounded. And it's just because we've been confused our whole lives because of, like you said, cholesterol, and you're going to clog your arteries, when in reality, I had Philip Ovadia, the heart surgeon, on. He's great. And he's
he is.
88% of humans out there walking around have poor metabolic health. They're walking around with inflammation. If you have poor metabolic health, you're 6 times more likely to have heart disease than if you have bad cholesterol numbers, whatever that means, or higher LDL. 6 times. Nobody's worried about it. Like when I started Carnivore a couple of weeks into it, I want to see your cholesterol numbers, as they're eating a cupcake and they're completely inflamed and they have poor metabolic health. And the thing that's getting crazy with me lately, Mitch, is I keep like learning more and more about this stuff, and you don't want to learn more and more about it because it gets more frustrating and crazy. But the most recent thing is I became friends with Jeff DeProsperous. He has stage 4 cancer. And then,
I saw that video that you made with him. Yeah.
yeah, and now he led me to Professor Thomas Seyfried's work.
Oh, well, Seyfried is he's kind of the definitive answer. I
Yes.
think he's got it. I actually think that he has it nailed. I think
Yes.
he has figured out.
But the thing that's so frustrating with that, so I watched one of his videos, this lecture he gave, and I watched the whole thing. And going into it, I'm like, this is going to be over my head. Like, what if all this stuff? I got done watching it. It was like watching a Ken Berry video. It was like common sense stuff. He simplified. But the sad thing was, this was 8 years ago, where he's talking about cancer is caused by damage to the mitochondria from chronic inflammation, basically from eating garbage food and sugars and processed food. You get inflammation, you end up getting cancer. And then the solution too, like all of these people are doing so good on chemo when they fast and they're doing carnivore or they're in ketosis. But I didn't know that. I had squamous cell cancer on my ear years ago. No one ever told me that. My aunt died of cancer. No one ever told her that. So it's so frustrating. Someone like him, that's my thing too. It's like, if you have cancer, by all means, I'm not telling you should do carnivore or you should fast, but you should know that this is an option. And for all of the reasons you were mentioning earlier, mainly money, nobody knows. The only thing they tell you if you get cancer is you got to do chemo and you got to do this, and then they give you cookies and Ensure while you're getting your chemo treatment.
Yeah,
It's insane.
and that's the saddest thing. The saddest thing on the way in now, we give babies formula with seed oils and sugar.
Yeah.
On the way out, we give these poor dying old people the same thing, only it says Ensure on it.
Yeah.
It's seed oils and sugar. It's poison. It's poisonous. But you can understand, just look around you. Look at this world. This world runs on corruption. Everything is greed and corruption and the quest for power. And the truth has no place anymore in the discourse when it comes to the people that control the messaging, and that's the news media, and even the internet is so controlled by the big tech people that that get to filter and censor. They don't really cut it out completely, but they can sure throttle the hell out of it, can't they?
Yeah.
When they want to. I always marvel, why did this video get 150,000 views and the next one, which is pretty similar, got 1,000 views? What's the difference? Well, the difference is one of them got millions of impressions and one of them got 5,000 impressions,
Right.
So they're not presenting it. And if they don't present it, I don't care how true your message is or how enthusiastic you are about presenting it. Nobody's going to hear it. Do you remember the James Bond movie that had the villain was the media mogul with the ship?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that says it. That says it. That is the theory. It's the person that controls what the people hear is the one that controls the people. That's why everybody is so convinced. It's been 70 years of hearing how healthy fruits, and you don't hear the word fruit or vegetable without the word healthy in front of it.
Right. And it's such a joke too. I get in arguments with people. I try not to go anymore, but like family too. You're doing carnivore. Are you just going to have fruit? Why? This is one comment I've been getting a lot lately on my channel. Well, in the Bible, they had apples. I'm like, the apple in a Bible is nothing like the apple of today. The apple of today has been like genetically changed 40,000 times. It's a piece of candy. You're eating candy if you're eating fruit. It's,
I read the Bible. I read the Bible many times in my life. And I seem to remember that the apple in the Bible was bad news.
Yeah, right.
That's what I remember about the apple. It was the original sin or something like that, So maybe there was a message in that, is just stay the hell away from the apple.
Yeah. Yeah.
They always talked in those times, because it was the way they lived in those times, about eating meat and goat, and all their feasts revolved around the slaughtering of an animal. I mean, this is the way humans evolved. The Bible is like yesterday in evolutionary time, but millions of years ago, that's what, I mean, this is what we evolved on. And I may be unusual in the aspect that I've spent so much time on my own learning basically medicine and biology and biochemistry. And I've really done deep dives into evolutionary biology, how we got here, how evolution actually works. And then, of course, when you get, and I don't ever want to talk anybody out of any religion. In fact, I envy religious people in the comfort that it brings them, but there are things that don't make sense if you try to look at it scientifically. And evolution is a scientific thing, and I'm firmly convinced that it's real, because you've seen it in front of your eyes, and the evidence we have now, the archaeology, the anthropology, the paleoanthropology, all that stuff is not unbelievable at all, and it makes sense. So when you think about things in evolutionary terms, and this is where I start losing a lot of the people that watch me, because they just want to know how to cook a chuck roast. They're not really interested in all the whys. I found out knowing the whys makes it just gives you the conviction to know that you're doing the right thing.
Right.
But nothing in evolution goes forward if it has no purpose or no advantage, or gives no advantage. Anything that is detrimental dies in that iteration of the species, and that's the last you see of it. And that started with some single cell thing 550 million years ago, and it ended up in us today. The systems that we have in our bodies, I'm watching the viewer count here to see if it starts dropping off. And if it starts dropping off, I'm going to stop this.
Right.
But I'm going to do it for 2 minutes, because it's a way of thinking that I think is important, because it's the way to find out what makes sense and what doesn't. You can insist something is right, but if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Where was I? God, I interrupted my own self here. I'm 76 years old, folks. I have an excuse. They call this a senior moment. No, I was talking about evolution.
Yeah.
The trait, whatever it is, like the mechanisms that we have. That's what I'm thinking of. The mechanisms are so complicated and so interactive that trying to regulate a system as complex as the biology of the human body, where every reaction of everything also affects 100 other reactions, and which is why the side effects to medicines are so severe, because they change one thing and it screws up everything else. These mechanisms evolved as beneficial traits over 500 million years in organisms that came long before mammals. Ancient fish from hundreds of millions of years ago had 2 eyes. We have 2 eyes. They had 1 mouth. We have 1 mouth. They had flippers and fins. We have appendages. If you start comparing the things that you have inside and outside your body with those of species that have been around for hundreds of millions of years, you'll find out that we didn't invent these things. They're just advanced iterations of what came before us. And all of this fabulous regulation of all of these systems is there for a reason. And this is the end of this, and the big point I'm trying to make, if our cholesterol is bad for us, it would not have made it this far up the evolutionary ladder.
Right.
our ancestors 100 million years ago, whatever animal they might have been, would have died off because the cholesterol was bad and it killed them and never would have made it to us. The fact that it exists in us today means it has a reason. And the only reason I believe, you can tell how passionate I am about this because it's just logic. The only reason I believe it can be harmful today is because we are not metabolically healthy. So if you're metabolically healthy, I think you can tell your doctor, leave my cholesterol alone. It's a lot smarter than you are. All right, that's the end of that. Sorry.
No, that's great. It's funny because I had a comment today and it kind of fired me up where someone said, you should just eat fruits and vegetables. That carnivore diet's a fad diet. And
Same
I'm
guy
like,
commented to me. I guarantee it. I saw the same comment today.
fad diet. I'm like, no, actually, the standard American diet's really a fad diet. If you look at humans since the start of time, the way we're eating now, the standard American diet. Someone did this in a documentary. I got to find it. I want to do something like in the carnivore diet documentary, but they took a whole football field and they said, this is how
Yeah, that
humans have
was in,
eaten.
I can tell you where that was in. That was in a movie called The Perfect Human Diet.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't know exactly how they said it because I've been thinking about this a lot, but it's something like if you take a sliver of grass at the end or a sheet of paper, that's the standard American diet people are eating now. And you can look on a graph and see heart disease and diabetes and all these issues going through the roof during this. This is the fad diet, not the way carnivores eat. That's been eaten that way since the start of time.
We evolved on that. And yes, we did eat some carbs and some fruits and vegetables, and I call them survival food.
Yes.
That was what you ate when you couldn't get meat.
Yep.
When you couldn't get the real food. And because it was survival food, we have the mechanisms in our body that trigger us to hoard, like what anybody else does when they are in need of supplies and they manage to find a cache of whatever supply they need. The instinct is to, like squirrels and nuts, to get as many of them as you can while they're still around. So we have a biochemical instinct to hoard sugar, and that manifests itself as the fact that it never satisfies our appetite.
I've never heard it put that way. I love that. It's so true.
You understand what I'm saying? It is a manifestation of an ancient need in somewhere back in our evolutionary path to gorge on sugar and get as much of it in our body as we could when we were in short supply of food, or the winter was coming up and we needed to put on some fat, because the sugar turns to fat and the fat becomes fuel that we use long term. This is how hibernation happens. So I try to explain it to people just that way. Is the reason that you can't stop eating spaghetti and meatballs. It's not the meatballs. It's the sugar and the tomato sauce and the pasta. Your body thinks you found a cache of survival food. So it's not going to activate your satiety hormones. Okay. It's not going to fool with your leptin levels. It wants you're in fat storage mode now, and it wants you to fill up your tank until the gas runs out. And that's very explainable and observable when you watch people eating sugar. They can't stop. How many times when you were eating that stuff, you ate until you couldn't move?
Yeah.
You're so stuffed and you're so uncomfortable.
To the point
Who can do that with steak? Who can eat that much meat? I can't. I can't.
Yeah, and with the sugar, it gets to the point where I was saying this yesterday on talking to someone, but it's like, it's really crazy if you take a big step back and if you were an alien observing humans, you'd be like, why are they deforming their bodies with sugar and stuff? Because it really is like, people are like, oh, you're shaming people. But no, like before, my stomach was sticking out so far, you're literally deforming your body. Like, how could that possibly be natural or good? But I like using my own two eyes, and a lot of this stuff, like what you just said, it makes so much sense. It always comes down to like, yeah, it's just common sense stuff. Like where I live, I'm in Wisconsin. It's winter for a good part of the year. We get wild berries for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And that's what they would have done. They would have hunted a big animal, feasted. Maybe they would have fasted for a week, maybe got another big animal, and then in the summertime they'd have some berries here or there as they could. But yeah, I don't know what people think used to happen, or like there's a bunch of vegetables or something we're eating throughout wintertime, or I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, you have to open your eyes. You have to look around. But they got us. They got us. I mean, they got the messaging, and they got the medical community. They got the medical schools. They got the curriculum. They got the two most crooked organizations on the planet, the American Diabetes Association and the American Heart Association. The American Diabetes Association, for God's sakes, has got recipes for cookies
it's
and Apple
insane.
Crisp on their website. It's insane. Now, you have to ask yourself, are these people just stupid, or are they just sociopaths and
Yeah.
greedy and corrupt? Which is it? It can't be both, and it has to be one of the two. If they don't know what they're telling their diabetics to eat is making their diabetes worse, then they're stupid. If they know that, but they're in cahoots with the drug companies, then they should be in jail.
Yeah.
But they're doing it nonetheless, and they're getting away. And the thing that torqued me off the most, Kerry, when I went looking and doing that video I just did it yesterday on Ansel Keys, or the day before. I went and Googled Ansel Keys. He's a hero. When you Google Ansel Keys, they praise him. He's a savior. He saved us from all the harm that red meat and saturated fat cause. They cannot have this message prevalent that he was a fraud. So virtually everything that you find in the media, unless you specifically look for something, talks about how Ansel Keys, so misunderstood. People claim he was a fraud, but he wasn't. And here's why. And here's why his 7-country study was legitimate. And here's why what he said was right. So then I Googled Ansel Keys. I Googled 7-country study fraud. I got one paragraph at the top with a quote from who I forget, but somebody we know in the community. And it was a half a quote. Didn't even finish the thought. And then underneath was an article about a woman, and it looked like it was started off on the right path, saying that he was a fraud, but she was just telling you in the first part of the article what everybody's saying about him, and then the rest of the article went on to defend every point and make him back into a hero. At that point, I gave up and said, you can't win. So I went over to my Firefox browser, which uses DuckDuckGo as a search engine. And I tried the same search, and you would not believe the difference in the bias of the answers.
Wow.
DuckDuckGo had all the bad stuff prevalent. You know.
I just Googled it while you were talking. The first one that comes up is from the Mayo Clinic. He made lasting theoretical and practical contributions across diverse topics on health.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I did a video. Yeah, right. It's like, I believe sugar is one of the biggest industries in the world. Like if you Google that too, it says, oh, technology, I guess everyone's got phones. But if you think about sugar, it's literally, if you go to the grocery store and took sugar out of stuff, there'd be meat left and cheese.
There'd be nothing left.
Yeah.
There'd be nothing left.
This was my big carnivore epiphany, because I'm like, how can this be so backwards? How can I be told my whole life meat is so bad and cholesterol is going to clog my arteries? I got to eat my vegetables. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. All these studies I've heard, I was so naive before, but now I'm like, if there's a study, there's almost always, it's very rare there's not some sort of bias, or it's, you dig into it and it's Kellogg's that's funding it or something.
Of course, they fund all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't declare their conflicts of interest.
Nope. So if you want to sell a ton of sugar, this is one of my carnivore epiphanies I had a couple of months ago. If you want to sell an incredible amount of sugar, other than getting kids addicted to it young, telling people breakfast is the most important meal of the day, which Kellogg's paid a bunch of money putting magazine articles.
Well, that was John Harvey Kellogg's idea. He made up that statement,
Yep. The last thing you do, you just demonize meat. You put all these stupid studies out. When you look at these studies too, that these studies, like people say, oh, I ate a lot of meat, I had a heart attack. And it doesn't account for the fact they went to McDonald's and they had a bun and ice cream and French fries and all this other stuff. That's all you got to do. Just demonize meat and you'll sell a ton of sugar. Because if people aren't eating meat, what are they going to do? They'll be like, oh, I'm going to have a salad for a couple days. And then you're eating all the processed garbage from the grocery store again. It's like, they got it all figured out for sure.
Well, we know this. See, we know this, but such a small percentage of people out there are even know this exists, let alone being interested enough to watch it. They just think they're becoming used to the fact that, and they just think this is the way it is. This is normal. This is how it's always
Yeah.
been. Humans have always become diabetic when they were 12. You know, humans have always had. I'm on Medicare, right? Okay. Have I told you that I'm old? Okay.
I wouldn't have known it unless you mentioned it.
I'm on Medicare, and I have a Medicare Advantage plan, which is kind of like an HMO. I don't expect you to know a lot about Medicare, but what happens is they take over my Medicare, my health coverage away from the government, and the government gives them a certain amount of money every month to take care of me. Okay. So it's called an Advantage plan. And then I just go and get everything I need from, it's called Health First. They have the big gym I'm a member of. They give me an allowance for glasses, for dental, the whole works. They own the hospitals that I go to. They owned the helicopter that flew me to the hospital. They sent me, I got a box in the mail, a gift from Health First, because I'm old. In that box was the biggest pill sorter I have ever seen in my friggin' life. It was this big. It was as big as those big screw assortment plastic boxes that come in from the hardware store. It had like 7 different compartments for each day. So it had pills for first thing in the morning, pills for like mid-morning, pills for noontime, pills for mid-afternoon, pills for dinner time, and pills before bed. And it had enough room in each one of those compartments for 10 pills at least. And I looked at that. And I said, I don't take any pills. I don't take a single pill. I take maybe a magnesium once in a while, but I take electrolytes, minerals, but I don't take medications. I don't take anything. I won't. I used to, but I don't now. And I saw this thing, and it was such a sad commentary on the state of human condition when people have to have pill sorters with enough room to hold 50 pills a day or more. Yeah. That's crazy. And guess who? Guess who probably paid for that pill sorter? The drug companies probably funded that little project to send these pill sorters to help these people keep from making deadly mistakes of taking the wrong pills at the wrong time, which might get the drug companies sued. So that's what I figured the motive was behind that, but I couldn't believe it. I threw it. It went from my mailbox into the trash can.
You say put some screws in it or something.
I got plenty of those things, but it was crazy. It was, well, I know I've seen that before.
Foolish in retrospect.
I was never that bad. I was never that
zero.
bad.
I'm like you now, 0. I take magnesium every now and then before bed and some electrolytes, but none of those were needed and none of them did anything. And it's just the circle. You eat the sugar, the crap, the inflamed foods, and then you get unhealthy and you go to the hospital. What do they do at the hospital? They don't treat the problem. It's the nutrition. So they throw pills at it, and it's the circle keeps going. You get more and more pills, and you end up sicker and sicker and sicker. It's just crazy. Are you getting frustrated, Mitch, at all? Because I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but after doing carnivore for a while now, some of the stuff is like, before I was so fool. I showed you all my pills. I was a fool having all those pills. But now that I don't know if it's because I'm thinking clear or because I've been doing all this research and watching all these videos, but some of this stuff is like so basic. I'll get people that'll ask me stuff like, what I want to do carnivore, but I'm worried about cholesterol. I'm like, oh, this again, like really? But it's the general public. Like it's like you said, they just don't get it. It's become normal. You go to the grocery store, everyone is sick and suffering, and they got aches and pains and obesity, and it's just, I don't know. It seems to be getting worse and worse, but it's happening slowly, so it's normal, and it gets a pass, and sugar gets a complete pass, and it's It's kind of
I
crazy.
understand your frustration. I have certain frustrations of my own. I did a rant about one of them the other day. For about the previous 10 years after I actually told the whole story of my life on my first live stream for a half an hour. Ups and downs and ups and downs. I've made fortunes and lost fortunes. And 10 years ago, I basically had everything stolen from me.
Mm.
I had a big computer company in Orlando. I was a compact computer partner. We did all the technology for 13 complete school districts and counties. And I was, like I said, I was a compact partner. And then Hewlett Packard bought Compaq. And Hewlett Packard came in and says, we don't have dealers. So sorry, see you.
Mm.
And I went from God knows how many millions of dollars a year to nothing in 6 months. And at that point, I just basically gave up. And it took me 10 years to gain my life back. I was so devastated from that. I had some other business failures too, and none of them were ever my fault. They were always wrong place, wrong time. I was a big home builder back in the late 1980s, and then the savings and loans all went broke and the economy collapsed. Well, you can't. There's things, I don't care what you do, you can't go against a tsunami like that. So after 10 years of pretty much thinking that every human being on the planet was a thief, and I almost had nothing to do with human beings. There's still a little bit of it in me, and I have a very short fuse when it comes to stupidity. Let me put it to you that way. And although 99% of the comments I get on my video are just heartwarming and fabulous,
Yep.
it's those 5, 6, 7, 10 comments every day with people are telling me what's wrong with me, what mistakes I've made. I'm killing people with my advice. You'll burn in hell because of this. I can't laugh them off. And I certainly can't engage those people. And you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Because we all get them. And it just makes you want to say, why do I try? Why do I try to even, help people? Because you just keep getting beat over the head by the stupidity of this world. Then you turn on the TV and you find out that Israel got attacked today. Did you know that?
No, I didn't hear that one.
Hamas. Israel is now at war. Almost 2,000 people were either killed or wounded today. Hamas attacked them last night. That's just another stupid thing. You've got all the political strife. And I think it's the food.
Yeah.
But you can't tell. How do you tell people that? So basically what we have a community here, and I'm happy to be part of it. And we just keep trying to tell our truth in the face of all this stuff. And that's the best we can do. And we can try to take care of ourselves, which we're doing, and live a healthy, pain-free life, and our families and the people close to us. And anybody that wants to listen to what we're saying is welcome to listen. And if they don't agree with us, that's okay. But can I say a dirty word on your channel?
Please go right ahead.
Don't be an asshole
Right.
about it. You know what? I don't care if you're a vegan. Eat your vegetables. I'm not trying to tell you not to. Leave me out of your choices. If you don't like my choices, sorry. But they feel the need. How often do you go on a vegan channel, leave them a nasty comment?
Never.
Never. Find something better to do with your miserable life. The vegetables make them crazy.
Yes.
They destroy their brains. It makes them mean and hostile. It makes them feel like victims. I'm firmly convinced the carnivores, the people that are all doing this, are level-headed and sweet and nice and smiling and happy and
it's remarkable.
sociable and God.
It's crazy, the carnivore community. Like, there's bias because I'm in it, but I've been doing homesteading videos for years, and I've done stuff on business and everything. Every carnivore I've talked to, I've become best friends with. They're just, you want to surround yourself with more
Great
people like that.
people.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they have the
Absolutely.
carnivore glow, and the mood is good and uplifting and motivating, and yeah, it's definitely noticeable. I get the same stuff on those comments. I've been reading more on like stoicism and only focusing on things I have control of, and like I'm going to control my reaction to it, but it's still really hard. It's always a challenge, but I, I I'm hopeful though, and I'm
Yeah.
optimistic because I've been seeing a lot. You mentioned this earlier, and I was watching your video you did about the YouTube censorship stuff, and one thing I've been seeing is there's a lot more YouTube channels too. So that's kind of spreading stuff out a little bit. And I'm at our movie theater here. I've been having more and more people come in telling me I'm a carnivore. I'm a carnivore. I'm a carnivore. And it seems like it's really having this ripple effect and spreading out. So I guess looking on the bright side of things, there's some hope there. It seems like it's really spreading because like you were saying, like a lot of people don't adopt it, but then I don't know because we'll see how long they stick to it. But like I did it, and my mom and stepdad are doing it, and both of my sisters are doing it. One of my daughter Emma is doing it and stuck to it. My daughter Lily started, had really good results, and she's on and off it, can't stick to it. But it seems like it's having kind of that ripple effect. I think you're probably having that effect on a lot of people too.
I'm not.
Sometimes you don't notice it. People won't
I'm
comment or
really
something.
not. I'm really not. I wish I was. That's why I stopped. When you notice everybody turns and runs the other way when you're approaching, you get the message.
Yeah.
I live in a community which is a retirement community. These people are all 95% of them are huge and very sick, and most of them are younger than me. Some of the only guys that are actually older than me are the old retired military guys who managed to stay in some shape. But most of them, and I hate to say it, but the women are in worse shape than the men. And all they do, I mean, I can't even socialize with any of them. I don't even go to the pool or anything anymore here. I just keep to myself. I go to my gym where there are younger, fitter people working out. I go to my pool. Mitch, you're too skinny. You don't look good. You're killing yourself.
Oh.
Yeah, while they're, drinking beers and eating cake and taking their diabetes pills and talking about yesterday when they went to the heart doctor and what they have to do. It's all about food and my doctor's appointments. I mean, their doctor's appointment. That's the whole topic. That's their whole life.
Yeah.
And the party they're going to have and what they're going to eat at the party, what they're going to serve at the party. You can't help people like this. You can't change their mind. That's their whole lifestyle. They have no life other than
food. What are we going to eat? What's next? Birthday. It's so funny you said that too. Man, it's like Twilight Zone. I've had that comment 3 or 4 times recently at the theater too. Are you okay? Are you sick? What's wrong with you? You're losing all, as they're eating like popcorn and candy and junk food. I'm like, am I okay? I feel better now than I have my whole life. I feel like I could run a marathon. When I was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now, and I had depression and sleep apnea and all this, nobody asked me if I was sick or if I'm okay. And now that I'm healthy, I get that question all the time. It's like once or twice a week, people have asked me, are you okay? I'm fabulous. I'm fantastic.
You're too skinny, they say. I say, look at it. Look at a high school, a 20-year or 18-year-old high school football player. He's skinny. He's going to be skinnier than I am. Is he too skinny? Why is he not too skinny? Because guys my age are supposed to look like they're going to have triplets tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Oh, I did want to show off something before all your viewers go away.
Yeah. Nice. Love it.
Take the rest of the day off, eat meat. That's how I end all my videos. I don't know if you heard that or you noticed that yet, but it's really crazy. It's really funny. It's become, how these TV shows, what you talking about? They all have some phrase well, that's a thing amongst the people that watch my videos is they're all telling me in all the comments, take the rest of the day off. Eat meat.
Awesome.
I did these videos. And it's another one. It's funny and I love it. It makes this stuff fun. I'm cooking. I got this 360-degree camera, an Insta360 X3. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I
I
saw
just
some of your videos. I'm like,
I
how do you
just
do that?
I just set it up in the kitchen and I go about my business. I wear a little lab mic uh and I talk and I cook and I walk around and then I go in. When you edit it, you have the entire world recorded, everything, and it's like you're inside of a sphere. So you can set up keyframes and you pan. So I can go ahead in the video. I know I want to be over there, so I can set that as a keyframe, and then the picture moves, and people keep asking, "How do you do that? How do you get the camera to follow you like that?" So I put the eggs, and I like to make an omelet, and I beat the eggs, right? So the first time I did it, I knew it was going to be noisy. So I looked right up into the camera and I said, "Excuse me while I beat my eggs." Well, that's a thing now. Everybody wants an apron. They want me to get some kind of apron that says, "Excuse me while I beat my eggs." It's really
That's
funny.
awesome.
It's great. But that kind of thing makes it gratifying, I think.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed your channel. I saw the video you did with, and I was watching. I was like, whoa, oh, he's got a 360 camera. I'm like, this guy is killing it over there. That's great. Well, hey, Mitch, I can't believe it's already been an hour and a half. I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have a couple more minutes so we can do a
Sure.
few of these? All right, we got a couple of questions, super chats here. I don't want to
Yeah.
miss those.
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy became a new YouTube member. Appreciate that. And then the Carnivore Cure, Todd, he's great. $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Every penny we get from super chats goes right to the carnivore diet documentary. After I got COVID and congestive heart failure, I was over 700 at the time.
Holy cow.
I woke up confused with a massive headache and couldn't recall words. They thought I had a stroke, but I couldn't fit in the MRI. Amazing.
Oh, man.
If you guys haven't seen, that's Todd Bachnis, the Carnivore Cure. He's got a great YouTube channel and sharing his story, and he's really fired up about it too. Agreeable Gray, $2. My why is simply the Carnivore Glow. Yeah, that's worth the price of admission right there too. One of mine was just the sleep I've been getting on Carnivore has been amazing compared to what I had before. PA Beater, $2. My wife has 4 of those pill sorters. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That's crazy. It's sad. And these people, they're watching their loved ones basically poisoning themselves. And
Yeah.
I'm having the same problem with my daughter. You have to know, I know when not to push. I know how disgusted she is, but life's, anytime any stress comes along, right to Dairy Queen, one of those, what do they call them? Ice cream things with all the candy and
The Blizzard.
blizzards. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's addicted. And it's an addiction as strong as any other drug or alcohol.
Yeah. But so much harder too, because then she goes to the grocery store, the gas station, and it's in everything. Your drug of choice is in every single product.
It is. I tried to find a hot dog. I just wanted a hot dog.
Yeah.
Just to have a few around in case like I made a big steak and I was still hungry afterwards.
Right.
And everything I have is frozen, generally in the freezer. I have to take it out the day before. So I want to have a hot dog. I cannot find a hot dog that isn't full of sugar and seed oils anymore. Or garbage. Not the old Hebrew Nationals I used to get, not the ballpark. They all, if you read, I get so disgusted. I look at the label and it less than 2% of the following and everything bad. And I don't want it. Can't somebody just give me a hot dog?
Right.
Not anymore.
Nope.
Not anymore. It's crazy.
One more from the Carnivore Cure, $10. Nah, not sued. Drug companies are untouchable, but they can't kill their slaves too soon because dead people don't buy drugs, just mostly dead people do. Yeah.
Well, that's true. And everybody says, somebody told me in a comment today that if YouTube is censoring you, you should sue them. Oh. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, they're protected by the government. They're not a media company. They're a platform and they have an exemption from being sued for the content that's on their platform. And they're not supposed to editorialize, which means they're not supposed to inject their opinion but they do. And the people that control this stuff in government are right in the same, are just as corrupt as they are, and they're not doing anything about it, and they never will. So no, you can't sue them. If you could sue them, I'll start a GoFundMe page. I will probably need maybe $3 million to $5 million to pay the lawyers, with no guarantee that I'm going to win anything.
Yep. And then they'll drag it out for 30 years.
Not only that, but if they countersue me, there's a possibility I could lose and maybe end up with a $20 million judgment against me, plus their legal fees. So you want to back me? Anybody wants to back me financially on that kind of thing? I'm not going to live long enough. Maybe when I die, you could finish it up.
I don't know.
Everybody says just Mitch, sue them.
At the rate you're going, you got a whole other life ahead of you now.
Well, I'm still not a young kid, and I still sometimes I'm reminded of my age. But I never thought I would be like this at my age. So
one thing that was Dr. Chaffee had said before is that, I don't know, based on your telomeres or something, he was getting into the science, but humans should live to be 130 if they're eating the proper human
120.
Diet.
What a telomere is it's the cap on the end of each of our chromosomes. And it has so many molecules in it. And each time you have mitosis, where the chromosome divides, where the cell divides, it takes one cap off. It's kind of like a countdown clock. And the older you get and the more times your cell divide, the fewer telomeres you have until they're all gone. And then you have cell death. So it's true. We all have that clock ticking down, but we're damaging all these things and making them not last as long as they're supposed to.
Right.
So that's an argument you'll hear sometimes when they're trying to sell some of these stem cell supplements, that you'll hear them brag about the fact that these stem cells have full length telomeres, which makes you think it's going to be like reset your clock to zero. I don't think it really works quite that way, but
right. Well, hey, if you make it to 120, Mitch, that's 44 more years. That's older than I am. I just turned 43. So.
Oh, you're a baby. Listen, I got shoes older than you. Listen, I'd like to make it to 100. My grandfather made it to 102, smoking 5 cigars a day. But they ate meat. That's what they ate. Yeah. Fatty meat. They ate the fattiest cuts of meat back in those days. The old cooks, they knew how to make fatty chuck roasts and briskets and that kind of stuff. And they didn't eat sugar. Didn't eat a lot of sugar. But we're certainly on the road to killing ourselves. I don't hold that much hope for the future of humanity. We keep doing this.
Right.
Not looking at the new crop, the new generation. But I think I try to be an optimist. I think we'll figure it out. Something will happen.
Yeah.
Or it won't, but there is a benefit for me, at least. I'm glad I'm not a young kid facing this. I'm glad I was a young kid when I was a young kid.
Right.
I other than a few business ups and downs, I had a great life, really. The world was a different place 50 years ago. You could do business in the world. There's very little regulation like there is now. I couldn't do now what I did back then.
Oh,
there'd be no way to accomplish it.
We could do a whole video on regulation stuff. And this little movie theater I'm on has been a nightmare. But we could talk about that another time. But Carnivore Cure, thanks again, man. So generous. $5. Vegans are the direct result of warning labels and seatbelt laws. Leave natural selection alone. Love that, Todd.
Yeah, you got to believe you know what the Darwin Awards are. You ever hear the Darwin Awards? Like you pick out the 10 dumbest people that you ever saw that do the dumbest things, and you give them a Darwin Award. I think that's ruling us right now. It's just it's incomprehensible, the stupidity that you hear about, and the lawyers on TV that want to sue somebody over it.
Right.
Yeah.
Christopher Ellis, let's hear it for natural deselection.
Deselection. Yeah.
And then we got Divine Diva. Thank you. $10 super chat. Day 14. I finally started carnivore after the last few months on keto. Feeling good. No cravings. High energy. No inflammation. Improved sleep and down 10.7 pounds. More healing coming. Keep up the work. Good job. I always
Yeah.
love hearing things like that, especially she started on keto and then moved over. And you're through
That's
day
great.
14. You're through the hard part. Hopefully.
Yeah. I always tell people, I tell people a lot, and it's hard to do. I say, for the first 30 days, don't step on the scale, not once. Put the scale away, hide it, give it to put it in your storage locker, somewhere where you can't get to it. More people have, and I know this for a fact because this has happened to a lot of people I know. They're on it for a week. They didn't lose any weight. This doesn't work. Boom, done. It can't work. You gotta hang in there for that first 30 days and let your metabolism have a shot at starting to convert and wake up those fat burning pathways that have been asleep so long, and convert yourself from sugar to fat. Once you get past that 30 days, you'll see the difference, I think. But stay off the scale. You might even gain weight in the first 30 days.
Right. So much water fluctuation those first days.
God.
The inflammation is something it happened for me, and I hear often from people that happens pretty quickly. So I always tell people to look out and look forward to that inflammation going away.
Your blood pressure will drop. Your fatty liver will start to resolve rapidly. Some things are going to take 6 months, but once for me, I think, and who knows exactly, I didn't have a light that went off that said, okay, now you're a fat burner, but I think it took me about 6 months to really change my metabolism over from metabolizing sugar as a primary energy source to fat. There's something I'm thinking about now after 14 months of this. And it's not because of what Paul Saladino did, but Robert Sivas, you know who he is, the carb addiction doc. Yeah. A lot of these guys are talking about the fact that, and you've heard the term flex, where your body can be flexible and like a hybrid car. It can be running on electricity or it can be running on gas, and it goes whatever the particular situation. So if you don't want to stay in ketosis and never go out of ketosis, because that's supposedly after a certain amount of time is not a healthy thing. Your body has to be able to switch back and forth like a hybrid car does. So I don't know what to do about it. I just started thinking about that stuff. I don't want to eat carbs.
Right.
I know that my blood sugar is generally high enough. When I get a blood test, it's the gluconeogenesis is working. It's turning some protein into glucose or something like that. I don't watch any numbers. I don't ever wonder what my ketone level is. I don't care. I come from the school that says whoever or whatever or however this miraculous machine got designed, it's a hell of a lot smarter than I am. Let it do it. Let's let it do its job.
People have asked me that. Do you measure your ketones? I'm like, I don't know what I would do differently. I'm eating meat and drinking water. I'm like,
right. Exactly. How would you control that anyway? Even, all you do is start focusing on these things and start worrying about it. Look for the results.
Yep.
You'll know how you feel.
Okay, we got one more here. This is from Diane Max, $5. Thank you so much. Do you think they could one day ban meat?
I don't think the market will let them. And nobody's buying this Beyond Meat and Impossible Burger. I have a standing joke with people that say that to me. I say, I'll tell you what, give me a call when the one day on a Friday night that you drive by an Outback Steakhouse and don't see a line around the block. Right. You call me on that day, and then I'll start worrying about them banning meat. I just don't think, at least in this country, now maybe in Finland or Norway, they can get away with that crap. That's where all the globalists seem to live. But this is America. This is America. They're going to, they're not going to take away my ribeyes or my firearms. I'm sorry. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that people like us, I think that I'm seeing, and like you said, there's more and more and more and more. You hear about carnivore. It's getting, there's even a little soiree into the mainstream media. Not that it gets the attention it should, but I did see, was it Nina Teicholz on like Good Morning America or something, being interviewed by a clueless anchor. I think that the word will get out when enough of us get healthy and people start looking at us and saying, how old are you? How old are you?
We had that in the comments in the beginning. People were saying, I want to see Mitch's identification. I don't believe he's 76.
Oh, all right. I'll show you something. I mean, this is something I did on my live stream one morning. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Can you see me?
Yes. What a great setup.
You can see me, right?
Yep. Oh, I love it. That's more than 2. Nice.
All right, let me put my headphones back on.
That's awesome.
All right.
Way more than 2 that time.
Yeah, you think?
Nice. Carnivore Cure. One more. You said, I'll bet you the Second Amendment, they won't get meat banned. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's going to. I mean, if you look at the numbers, I don't see meat sales declining. But what are we going to do? Do away with the 4th of July? No more barbecues? Labor Day?
Right.
Christmas turkeys? Nah. Anyway, what are you going to do?
I'll be getting my own cow if anything comes close to that. But yeah, I think we're going to be okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been 1:42 already. This has been one of the most fun talks I've had in a long time, Mitch. I really appreciate it. We got to get together some more.
We will. I had a great time.
Yeah.
I even got a little exercise in.
Yeah, I gotta go do some now. Hey, everyone that's watching from my channel, make sure go subscribe. Old Guy Carnivore. I really have enjoying your videos, and it's unbelievable. You're 76 too. It's just it's awesome. I love your message. I love everything you're doing. Maybe at some point, if you're interested, it's kind of funny. My dad lives in Leesburg. It's
not far.
Between Orlando and Gainesville.
Yeah,
we're heading down there. The girls, Jen, myself, and I, we haven't left our homestead for a vacation in like 8 years, but we're going on a cruise in December. So we're going to be down there for a couple days before and after, staying at my dad's place.
Where are you going out of?
Orlando.
The cruise.
Out of Orlando.
They don't have
I'm sorry. Port Canaveral.
Well, you come within 10 miles of where I live.
Oh.
I live right over here on the Space Coast, right? Just south of Port Canaveral.
Oh, wow.
I watch all the rockets go up.
So, okay, this is another crazy thing. We went there years ago, and like when the girls were younger, I took them to Disney World and all that stuff, and it was just such a ripoff last time. The last time we went, which was many years ago, we took them to Port Canaveral, to the Space Center.
Yeah.
It was amazing. We met an astronaut. I'm like, this was educational, entertaining, and they were going to do a SpaceX launch that day, but we just missed it. But I'd love to see that one day. That's so cool. So you're right there. I will connect with you for sure. Maybe we do a little YouTube video or something in person together. Or
email me your phone number if you would.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I think I put mine in the email I sent you.
I'll do it right after this call. Yeah, okay. And yeah, I love what you're doing. I'd love to do more videos together. Anything we could do, and maybe talk more about the carnivore diet documentary. Because, like I said, we have this huge section on aging. I'm going to interview Maggie in Canada next week.
Oh,
We're
that's
filming her.
great, man. That's
Yeah,
great.
but we need more. And your story is amazing. It's unbelievable. You're 76 and you're thriving on this. And I love your passion and fire for it. So maybe we can talk some more about that too. I'll definitely have my camera with me when I go down there because I have to video everything, including the family vacation and the cruise and stuff. But
Well, it's been great fun. I've really enjoyed it, and yeah, it's like meeting. It's like meeting. Well, you're too young to be my brother, but you could be my son.
right. Yeah.
My son is 53.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have so much in common. Yeah. Do you want to shout anything else out? You got the YouTube channel, Old Guy Carnivore. I have a link in the description below.
Yeah, I have a website, oldguycarnivore.com, and I got a few T-shirts with this with my slogan on it. But I'm not really trying to sell a lot of this stuff. But I got that. We have the website is going to have a database. I have saved up the names of hundreds of some of the best YouTube videos from all of the best people. I'm going to catalog them, and it's going to be available. Links to those will be on our website too. But if you come over to our channel, watch some of my videos, that'd be great. Love to have everybody. It's a big community, and we can't get enough of it.
Yep. Yeah. I really enjoy watching your videos. Anytime they pop up, I watch them. So I highly recommend everyone go check it out. And then one last super chat, David and Melinda Delgado. Thank you guys so much. $20. Hi, Kerry. We're still here watching. I don't think they will ban meats. The Lord is in control. And it says in God's words that the plans of the wicked come to naught. The Lord always provides for those who have faith. Praise God. Thank you so much, David and Melinda Delgado. Really appreciate it. They keep popping through. I'm an Aussie. They won't let me have a gun. Ha ha ha. $5. Thank you so much. That was the last one. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mitch. I'll shoot you an email with my phone number. And this was a lot of fun.
It really was.
Like I said, I always make friends with people. You're my new carnivore best friend. If you ever need anything, let me know. Give me a call anytime. I'd love to talk to you some more.
Oh, we'll do that. Thanks so much.
Have a good night.
Everybody.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night.